This week, we're going to talk about Batman, Superman, World's Finest #3, Nightwing 92, and Shadow War, Warzone #1. And here with me, as always, is the Batman historian, the DC Comics aficionado, Josh McDonald. How you doing, Josh?
I am doing well, Wes. How are you?
I'm doing better than you. I didn't read Shadow War, Warzone. We're just going to have to take your word for it.
What the hell? Look, time out. Wes is he's a sneaky guy, man, because I'm like, hey, what do you want to cover? And he sends me the books, right? And we're like, all right, great, this works. And this motherfucker shows up this morning and just busts out with, I didn't read Shadow Warzone. Okay.
I was looking at it. Once I saw the creators, I was like, do I really want to drop money on a book I know I'm not going to like, even for the channel? And I decided, you know what? Josh already read it. What the fuck does he need me for?
Fair. That is, look, I will say, you have other videos you do reading the worst comics of the week, and you do that with Doc. So every now and then, sure, I will take the heat. I'll take the brunt. No,
I appreciate you taking one for the team. Now let's talk about something great.
Yes,
Batman, Superman, World's Finest #3. We're 3 issues in, and I'm willing to say it now. This is the best comic book going at DC Comics. Probably the best one they've had in the last 2 years. This thing is fantastic. Mark Waid is at the top of his game. Dan Mora just looks brilliant. If this doesn't make him a motherfucking superstar in comic books, I don't know what will. It's just like this weird tour de force, like supercharged action comic that's exploring like the entire DC fucking universe. I love it.
In a world where every writer's coming in going, how can we add an eating scene into this book? Mark Waid's like, yo, forget this. Like, I want some old school action-packed, high energy, balls to the wall comics. And that's what we're getting. And then on top of that, to make it even better, Mark Waid has an understanding of these characters. He knows the history of these characters, and he's using that to his advantage. We've got so many great things going on in this book. Like, it's pertinent to the story, it makes sense, and it's executed well. And then you mentioned Dan Mora. Like, the dude is freaking fantastic. I've been a fan of his for years now, and I'm just like, he's gaining in popularity, but he needs that title of one of the greats because he deserves it.
Yeah, this thing's fantastic. So essentially, we start out, we've got 3 stories that are ongoing that we kind of left off in the last issue. We've got Batman and Superman, It Appears They're in Hell. We've got the Doom Patrol scaling a mountain, trying to find out who this Devil Nazar is. And then we have Supergirl and Robin flying back in time to kind of discover how Devil Nazar was defeated thousands of years prior. So with the Batman Superman one, Superman figures out that they're not really in hell, that Dr. Faust is kind of playing with their minds and he's got some magic going on, whatever. Thought it was really cool. There was an awesome moment with Billy Batson's Shazam where he's kind of still under and it feels like he's possessed by this damn devil guy.
Yeah, this scene in particular, I was really intrigued by because they set it up well in the previous issue and they jump right into it here. Batman trying to react and respond, and they kind of play it off as like Superman's not doing anything because he's weak against magic. And they played it off in a nice way that it was actually Superman trying to overcome the quote unquote noise, I guess you could say, of the magic to figure out what was going on. And the way he kind of determines everything is he hears a heartbeat that isn't there, that's not visible. And then he knows that it's Faust just using magic and can take advantage of it from there. But I thought it was an excellent scene. There was a lot of action. The Billy Batson stuff was interesting as well. Like they keep kind of like doing a little bit with Billy Batson here and there, and I'm just waiting for the full like Shazam moment and for that to come into play. So it's keeping me on my toes. It's keeping me like excited with anticipation, but it's still delivering good story beats along the way.
Now the Doom Patrol stuff is pretty interesting. They end up scaling this mountain and they find this longtime villain. Who is immortal, but apparently he's immortal with dementia. And they're trying to find out, like, what do you know about Devil Nazar as they're kind of realizing what's happened to him. And he does give them at least a piece of information. I think he's in Corte Maltese.
Yeah.
So they need to go on to there. So I thought that was a really effective little scene, really establish the Doom Patrol, who they are. It's really fun. It doesn't take away too much from the Superman, Batman stuff, but it really gives you another part of the DC universe we don't see much.
Yeah, you get another part of the DC universe that you don't see much. Again, it's written well. It's an odd inclusion if you think about it, but it makes sense to the story and it works well. If we go back to that very first issue, I think the reveal of the Doom Patrol was probably like the biggest, like, oh, I didn't see this coming. And the fact that they continue to weave that into a plot thread and make it work, I think is excellent. And I hope he continues to utilize them even throughout his run.
Then we go back in time and we see Robin and Supergirl kind of fighting the original heroes that entombed Devil Nazar, and they're kind of telling them how they went about it. There's some miscommunications, as you would expect. And there's a little battling going on. I didn't think that one was too exciting. But then when we get back to the Superman, Batman stuff, they kind of escape from hell or whatever. They're just like visiting all the crazy villains within the DC universe that this new villain has kind of taken over. I really love the scene with Flash. Superman kind of shows up in Central City. Flash is taking on Mirror Master, and he gets completely guzzled. Like, don't go for that mirror, and he puts himself into another dimension.
You mentioned this is the best book on the stands, and it is. And it's just like, I'm trying to look at this and go, how did you approach this in a way that you did something that we've seen so many times, but you still made it fun and interesting?
One of the things he's really done is taking a lot of these villains that have become jokes over the last few years, and they feel a lot more dangerous in this comic book. They feel much more formidable.
If you go back to like the 80s and 90s, there were a lot of characters that were around that were used that are, like you said, they're kind of viewed as jokes now. And I think it's just because, you have writers that don't understand these characters writing comics right now. And they don't, like, just because a character may look funny doesn't mean that they're a joke. And it's almost like, okay, he decided that was going to be his approach. You've got these characters and I've got a bunch of writers that think they're jokes. That's fine. I'll show you why they're not jokes. And that almost feels like it's a purpose of his in this book of like, quit going with the same like 5 characters over and over again. You've got all these characters to use and they're actually good characters. You're just too stupid to realize it.
Now, there are a couple of reveals here by the end of the comic book that not all is well with the heroes themselves. Hal Jordan has been overcome by Neville Hazai. He even imprisons them inside one of those green prison cells. And then the last one, the real gut punch, Alfred has been taken over too. We've got him with his hand on his shoulder as he's lying to Batman.
Oh, once the Green Lantern's revealed, they learned that this can't just be happenstance. Like this demon has been locked away for centuries. There's no way he can know all this stuff. How would he get familiarity with these villains? And Superman and Batman both immediately think that someone has to have infiltrated the Justice League Tower and they have to have some type of information. And he uses Alfred to check on that. And then we see that, Alfred's being controlled as well. So I think we have the right idea of where our villain is getting this information, but they're too late. He's already gotten his hands on people. So
very exciting stuff. This is a 5-star comic book. This is one of the best comic issues I've read this year. I absolutely loved it beginning to end. I can see how maybe some newer comic book readers might think this is all too fast. I think it's just perfect. The pacing is off the charts. There are no pages wasted, and it's a lot of fun and a lot of fun exploring the DC Comics universe that we don't get all that often.
No, not at all. And it's excellent. And I hope that people read this either in issues or once it's collected, and then enjoy enough of these characters that aren't highlighted much and seek out other stories with them in it. Because there's some really good work from the past that feature these characters and that, it deserves to be read. Now
let's go to something that's a little bit differently paced. Nightwing 92, Tom Taylor, Bruno Redondo. There's an opening scene, and I like the art in this that Bruno Redondo does, kind of with the throwback where there's this flashback scene. But it's one of the frustrations I have with this comic book. I don't think the scene in and of itself is bad. No. It kind of shows that Dick Grayson has put himself in jeopardy. He's gotten himself hurt. Alfred intervenes and kind of saves him, even though Batman has told him not to, and Batman wants to confront Dick as he's a young child. Alfred says, no, you're not going to do that, and you're going to go and check on him and make sure he's okay. I like these scenes. These things are perfectly fine, but it feels like Tom Taylor is putting these into the story so you have a nostalgic moment and you have a nice feeling with it to, swerve you from realizing that he hasn't done anything with this story in over a year.
You're spot on. Pretty much nothing has happened, I think, since his 4th or 5th issue of this book. And Nightwing has been, caught up in tie-ins or events or crossovers. And then the only thing that's carrying this is what you said, nostalgia and like heartfelt moments. And look, heartfelt moments are fine. They work. They can be effective, but you need to have a story there as well. And if you don't have a story there, you're going to kind of come how like we're feeling like, yeah, there's good moments, but like, who cares? Nothing's happening. And that's where we are. I personally loved the opening scene. I loved the flashback. I knew it would play a point, but I wasn't completely sure what that point was going to be. I didn't like the point that it made at the end, but for what it's worth.
I'm tired of this point, Josh. So I'm going to call out what it is.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know Dick Grayson is a great character. I know he's a good man. I've known that for years now. I don't need this comic book to reiterate that. And if you want to reiterate it, do it once. It's doing it every single issue. Move the full fucking story along and stop telling me how great Dick Grayson is. I know he's great.
Yeah. And that's the problem there. It's not even that they're doing things just to show he's great. They're taking every single issue to set up a scenario to explain why he's great. And it's like, we don't need the explanation. Just let him do what he does and we're fine. But we don't need these flashbacks within a setup to, a quote unquote climax of the issue to prove the point of the theme of this. Like, just tell your story. Let him do good things and we're great. I do want to just go back to that opening scene. I thought it was a lot of fun. I loved how they used Alfred in this because we haven't seen Alfred in so long. And when we do get to see him, it's not really used the best. And I think sometimes Alfred can be written off as just this like support character that's just there to assist. And it shows how capable Alfred is as a character and how much he can contribute. He saves Dick and Barbara, and not in a like, oh, let me jump out and beat the crap out of people. It's in a way that makes sense, and I applaud Tom Taylor for that. And then even the confrontation he has with Bruce is, I understand where you're coming from, and this is another scene that was really well. Bruce was mad that he told Dick not to get in the situation, and Dick did anyways. And Bruce is upset because he's like, you could have died, and he's pissed. Because he doesn't want that. He doesn't want to bear the weight of that responsibility. And Alfred comes in. He's like, he basically says, you're not wrong in how you feel, but you're not going to help if you go in like this. This is not what he needs. You need to approach it this way, and then he can learn from this. So that whole exchange, I would say 9 out of 10. I loved it. Everything else in this book goes back to what the problem has been for months now, and it's just nothing's happening. We've been spinning on this plot of like, oh, you've got Blockbuster. Oh, you've got his like half sister or whatever the hell she is in local management, city management. They're doing conniving things. And then you have Heartless that's, just been lingering for over a year.
Apparently he's just been ripping hearts out left and right for a year now. Nobody's noticed.
Nobody's noticed. So, it's just like, get on with the story. Like the book started with such a good momentum and it just lost it.
I don't need Tom Taylor or anyone to explain to me why or how Dick Grayson is a great character. I like these nostalgia moments, but I see them for what they are at this point because we're getting him in every issue because he's trying to distract you from the fact that it's not doing anything, and he hasn't done anything for a while.
No.
I'll recommend the comic book. It's not terrible or anything, but as a series, it's just really disappointing that this is where we are.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, at this point, whatever the first trade is, the first collection, it's probably 5 or 6 issues. You can probably pick up that, skip whatever the second collection is going to be because it's just going to be spinning its wheels and all these tie-ins and stuff you don't need. And then hopefully they'll get the story going again soon, or hopefully this is the start of the story going again, and then just pick up the third collection. Like, just go from there.
So let's get to this final comic book that came out, Shadow War Warzone. Josh Williamson, Ed Brisson, Stephanie Phillips, Nadia Shammas. Once I read the lineup, I was like, do I really want to spend $5 or $6 on a comic book for like 10 pages of Josh Williamson? I like Ed Brisson a bit too, but Stephanie Phillips, Nadia Shammas, no thank you. I've read a couple of these Warzone issues. They've always sucked. I imagine this was going to suck, so I took a old skipperoonie on this one, and I do appreciate you for biting the bullet on this one. Was there anything redeeming about this comic book?
Honestly, no, not really. Your opening story is a Black Canary story, and it's the story that's written by Joshua Williamson, and you've got Otto Schmidt on art. I'll be honest, like I started reading it, I got hooked rather quickly. I enjoyed the action. It was fun. Basically have Black Canary kind of, going into a fight with Angel Breaker. It's entertaining. And then like right as it feels like it's really starting to get going, it ends. And it teases, what's going on in the main plot line. So that was like disappointment number 1. And then everything else just got worse. So
comic book blue balls, man. They build you up for it, then they just never mind. Story's over.
What I will say about that story is at least it was entertaining for what it was. I mean, there's no substance there. It's just a fun kind of like battle. The very next story kind of features Talia al Ghul, and it's written by Nadia Shammas and with art by Sweeney Boo. Like, dude, everything is wrong here. Everything is wrong here. Talia like hanging out with one of the ninjas that's supposed to be like her specific guard, but then they're best friends, and it's this total like high school, like, oh, we're teasing each other and we're gonna have cutesy banter. And I'm like, this is not Talia al Ghul. And then Talia's like, oh, I don't like my father using the Lazarus pits, and I feel trapped here, and I want to be a free spirit, and I want to be dangerous, so I'm gonna jump off this cliff. It's stupid. And then you've got this ninja guard best friend home chick that, they go and eat together at high school lunch. And, they're the like, I don't know, what's the mean girls, I guess, pretty much. That's kind of how they're depicted. And then she's like, what? No, you're going to hurt yourself. You can't do that. So anyways, Talia jumps. She gets injured. Ra's al Ghul, flips out. She decides she's going to run away. She runs into her grandmother. Things are explained about the Lazarus pits, that there's no new information. It's written terribly. It feels like it's a bunch of like CW high school or middle school age girls just having conversations. Like, it's shit. Like, it's so bad. And the art looks like it's for young readers. Like, the art looks like it's for like 4th grade readers. It's not bad art. It's not what I would pick for Assassins. Second story, complete waste of time. Don't do it. Third story, Wes, do you remember when the news came out that they were doing Batman and the Outsiders, but it would be Ghostmaker? Or no, it's Batman Inc., my bad. Batman Inc., and that Ghostmaker was going to be leading Batman Inc. with Clown Hunter, and my response was, fuck my life. Like, why? And I wanted to rage quit. Well, this next story is a Ghostmaker Clown Hunter story, and it makes me want to like slit my throat because I hate both of these characters. I think they're both super insufferable. They're insufferable here. They've been insufferable ever since James Tynion introduced them. But now, like, Clown Hunter's trained so well, he can just take out, I think it was like 5 or 6 League of Assassins members. Like, it's nothing. And then you just have Ghostmaker being schmarmy, like, oh, well, I've trained you this well. You should be excited, blah, 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 blah. Skip it. Just skip it.
Was that the Stephanie Phillips or Ed Brisson?
No, that's the Ed Brisson story. And
that's probably better than the next one then.
Oh, fuck my life. So I pulled a Wes. I'm not going to lie. I pulled a Wes. The last story is a Harley story, and I started reading it, and I was like, fuck. Okay, no, I can get through it. And I got about halfway through this story, and I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm not. And then I just started flipping pages, hoping to see when the next story would start. This is probably the longest story in the entire book, and it was bad enough that I couldn't finish it. I read in its entirety the other 2 that came before it. This one, I'm like, I'm not finishing this. I'm not finished. It is that bad. I'm not finishing it.
Stephanie Phillips is a pretty shitty writer. I don't know why DC keeps putting her on anything important, but they seem to think that she's a future superstar. I have doubts.
Oh, yeah, indeed. But yeah, no, based on those reviews, as you can see, Shadow Warzone #1, 10 out of 10. You should totally pick it up. Don't pick it up.
Highly recommend.
Don't pick it up.
Don't buy that. All right. So there you got it. Obviously, earlier in the day, we did talk about Batman the Night and the controversy with that. We hit Batman, Superman, World's Finest. A must-read if there ever was one in today's comic book market. Nightwing 92 as well as Shadow Warzone. Hey, you can read 2 of these comic books and come away happy. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, we had a ton of Batman news this week. If you haven't checked it out, I did a full video. It's actually pretty short. It's only 12 or 13 minutes going over One Bad Day, The End of Deceased, as well as this new Batman art book. Definitely check this out if you want some more Batman news and get excited about the future.